All right.
She's such a professional.
Dig it.
Are you a podcaster?
Welcome to Travel Matters, the official podcast of T-Bex, the community and global gathering of travel creatives since 2009. If you're a blogger, podcaster, YouTuber, Instagrammer, if you create content for travel on any platform, this is the podcast for you. We will be sharing all the latest news, trends, and tips for you, and interviewing the movers and shakers in the travel creative ecosystem. This is Travel Matters. Here are your hosts, the radio vagabond Palle and T-Bex CEO Rick Calvert.
Welcome to Travel Matters. We are back. My name is Palle. You're Rick Calvert, as far as I know.
I think so, yep, Rick Calvert.
And much to my surprise, you announced the next T-Bex North America on the opening.
Yeah.
That is unusual. Normally it's the last thing before we leave.
Yeah. We thought we maybe couldn't keep it a secret long enough.
Because I knew?
Yeah, exactly. Palle can't keep a secret. And we've actually been talking to Puerto Rico since the first big hurricane that hit them several years ago now. When that happened, the island was devastated. We reached out and we said, we'd like to help you guys. What could we do? If we bring the conference there, that would help you. We'd love to do that. And then there was another hurricane, and then there was COVID, and it just kept getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back and pushed back.
Yeah.
So we thought, we didn't want to wait any longer. So part of it was for our own self. We just wanted to say, we're going now.
Yeah.
So
you showed a video.
Yeah.
And you also just showed me a video of what happened in Greece.
Yeah.
Amazing footage. And that's what we're talking about here, because we're talking about drone photography. Christine Lozada. Did you notice the segue?
I love that segue, and I'm so excited to talk about drones.
Christine Lozada, from where in the world is CL? And you are famous for being the drone queen of this industry. And I had the pleasure of doing a fam trip with you, Washington State, and you're like total bomb of energy. And you're the reason I have this Insta360 camera.
And that's an important one, because drones are very easy to fly and so much fun, but sometimes it's not convenient to put a drone in the air, which is why the 360 camera.
And sometimes it's not even legal.
Exactly. So it's a fantastic compact tool to use in addition to that. But you missed something, which is that fam trip was after T-Bex in Tri-Cities and is one of the best fam trips that I've ever been on. It was so much fun. We created some beautiful content out of that.
Except for our guide and one person, Carrie, we're all here. And
Palle talks about it all the time, like how you all somehow became friends.
Yes.
Because it's a pretty unusual group.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is very different.
But that's also the power of T-Bex. There's a really fantastic community that comes together here to share their knowledge openly about all of the things, including drones. Yeah.
So, Christine, I got to know, when did you start working with drones and doing drone photography and drone video?
A lot of people ask that question because there's an assumption that I've been flying a drone for a really long time, and that's not the case at all. I started flying a drone actually very shortly after I started creating. I started my YouTube channel in 2019 talking about places to travel, and I realized in 2020 that I needed that establishing shot. I needed to be able to storytell and truly show the beauty of the destinations that I go to, because I generally chase an endless summer and beach destinations around the world. And a drone is the perfect tool in the toolbox to be able to tell that story. So I started flying in 2020.
So were you a videographer or a photographer before you started flying drones?
So that's another question people ask, because they're like, and actually, some people came up to me just now and they're like, I love your composition. It's beautiful. Like, where did you study? And I was like, I studied at the University of YouTube. I'm self-taught. I watched YouTube tutorials. I have no video or photo background at all. And the best thing about flying a drone, though, is, why do we go to the rooftop to get a drink? Why do we take the hike? Why do we sit at the window seat of a plane? Because that view is amazing. And so the drone itself is giving you a beautiful point of view and angle that you don't have to do anything to really work with to make it more beautiful. Like you already have the best view in the house. And so, no, I don't have any kind of background in that. The drone helps me.
If you haven't seen Christine's work, it's really, really stunning. I mean, it's some of the best drone photography and video that I've ever seen.
And it's so effortlessly. When we did that fam trip in South Seattle, we were at the harbor with all the sailing boats. And Christine, almost with her eyes closed, just flew that thing in between the poles. It's like, oh my God, they're so close.
Such a fun shot.
Where Tomiko, she lost her drone in Greece. She couldn't get it to come back. Somebody had to come help her.
I'm going to have to work with her on her safety settings because a lot of people don't know with technology improving so much these days, your drone will help to keep you safe much more than you could ever expect. You just have to have the settings correct. So I will find her and follow up on that.
Have you ever flown a drone, Rick?
I've never flown a drone.
Oh, this might be your moment.
I mean, I've seen them lots of times. I just, but no, I never tried.
Yeah, we had a conversation just before because it's like a little joystick with two knobs. What's the trick?
The trick.
Are you going to say it on the podcast?
I will absolutely say it. So if you've never seen a drone controller before, it basically looks like the old school Nintendo controller with two joysticks on top. And most people will put their thumbs on top of it and then move the joysticks around very rapidly and a lot. And that forces the drone to maneuver too fast and oftentimes out of control. And so the way I talk about it is you literally with your index finger and thumb, you gently pinch the nipples. You gently caress the nipples and you slowly move them around for very slow because the viewer, they want to see it, right? Slow and cinematic. Be gentle with your sticks.
And the drone likes it better.
The drone likes it. Actually, the drone does like it better because the battery will last longer. The slower you fly, the more cinematic it looks, and the drone battery will last longer.
Yeah. Is there a favorite place you've flown a drone was that place in South Seattle, or is there a favorite place where you think, oh my God?
I have two stories and they're really, so that day in Seattle, Southside Seattle, if you haven't been, that waterfront, those sunsets are absolute fire. That was a favorite place.
We were so lucky with the weather.
We were very lucky with the weather. But I would say there are things about drones that as a traveler and an explorer is a fantastic tool because there are so many times I saw things with my drone that I otherwise would never have been able to see. And so one time, for example, in South Florida, there is a black tip shark migration that happens during generally the month of February. And there's no way you can see the sharks moving down the beach unless you're in a helicopter, a plane, or you have a drone. Mm-hmm. And so I went out every single day along the coast looking for them. And literally a few hundred yards from where I was standing on the beach, and you couldn't see it from the naked eye on the beach, but from the drone, I captured over 500 sharks.
Wow.
Jumping and almost dancing in the water. And it was one of the most, there are so many times, and I will admit this, that I've cried while flying my drone because I've seen like really beautiful things that just make you appreciate where you're at or wherever you're traveling. But that was one of my favorite flights.
Yeah.
The sharks.
What are you talking about here at T-Bex?
Actually, my T-Bex talk opens with that shot of all the sharks because there's a lot of people and amazing creators here talking about travel and helpful travel tips and different angles to talk about travel. But I'm just one of many, many, many voices. But what I'm talking about here at T-Bex is how I've used my drone to truly differentiate myself, have my content stand out. But I'm actually really focused on something different in that instead of being focused on how to fly the drone, I want to talk strategically about how I've used it to land partnerships, land work, land really cool projects, and how with specifically a drone, I've used that to monetize and get further work with places I really, really care about. And so those strategies and how I'm using the drone within that as a part of my toolbox to differentiate myself and how others can literally copy that starting now with actionable steps. That's what I'm talking about.
I know I talked about opportunity this morning before the keynote, and what you brought up is another one. There's huge opportunity if you're good at using a drone and stuff. In the past, you used to have a helicopter.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's drastically cut the cost of getting that type of footage.
Yes, exactly. And what's interesting is a GoPro today, the latest one, costs $399. You can get a 4K drone for $339. The technology is increasing and the price is coming down. Safety is getting better. It's accessible.
And they're getting smaller,
more accessible to everyone.
Yeah. Are they getting easier to fly?
They are getting easier to fly. So I actually would challenge what you said which is if you're good at flying a drone, within the first 2 months that I started flying a drone back in 2020, I took a photo of myself kayaking in a really beautiful place in Florida. And that photo was the cover of the Tourism Board magazine for the rest of the year.
Wow.
That was within 2 months of getting my drone. So you don't have to be good. You have the best view in the house already.
But you said that it's a part of your toolbox. Granted, it's a big part of your toolbox because you're so damn good at it. But you started doing the drone in 2020, you said, you've been producing content about travel for a lot longer.
It's only since 2019.
Oh,
I'm a newbie in the house. I have not been doing this that long, but yes, it's part of my toolbox.
I only said that because you look so old.
Oh, Palle's fired.
I love Palle.
I think it's time for a jingle.
See more on tbexcon.com/podcast.
Palle's fired. So
I'll hire him.
So my question was, have you ever crashed a drone and lost your drone or lost your camera?
It's a good question. I have had one crash of note. And so what's interesting is I have heard over 100 drone crash stories, and only maybe 2% of the time am I ever like, oh, wow, I can't believe that happened. And 98% of the time I'm like, yes, of course that happened because of whatever safety settings were not in place. The time that I flew a drone was a time that you should not have flown a drone, but I was ready to risk it for the biscuit. I was riding a bike in a part of Ethiopia that no tourists have ever been to before. And respectfully, Ethiopia is both a difficult country to fly a drone in from a security and standpoint, but also because, especially if you're in a part of Ethiopia where there's no tourists around, the locals, they don't know what a drone is, and I don't want to scare them.
No.
And so I had ridden my bike far away from all of the villages, and I was on the edge of this cliff, this gorge that literally dropped down about 8,000 feet. I was at high elevation. That day, the wind was ripping, like I was Medusa hair. And the wind must have been like 40 miles an hour. I'm not going to geek out on the math, but the drone I was flying that day could likely take around 22 miles per hour of wind. So it was way windier than it should have been. And what happens when you fly your drone over like a gorge or a cliff, there's varying patterns of winds.
Right.
And I was like, oh, I got to have a shot of the drone over the cliff, looking back, risk it for the biscuit. As soon as it went over the cliff, and because I'm at elevation, the drone just started sinking. It was just sinking. And I put it into the fastest speed and just started cranking the left stick, which makes it come back up. But it was still sinking. And so my best bet was to just fly it forward to crash it into the side of the cliff where hopefully it would still be retrievable and wouldn't tumble down the mountain.
Oh, that's insane.
I purposely crashed it into the side of the cliff, which was the best bet for me because I couldn't go down. There's no way you could go down to the bottom of the mountain. And
still filming?
Still filming. Threw some rocks down there because there's a lot of monkeys that are a little bit dangerous. And made sure there was no monkeys. And then I went down there and I picked it up and it was fine. And then what did I do? I recalibrated it, which basically means once you've had a crash, you should just calibrate it so it knows where it's at again. And then I flew it again.
Oh.
So even when you crashed it, you didn't ruin it. You didn't lose it.
No.
Wow.
No.
Now, maybe it was your Insta360, but have I seen you doing drone shots indoors as well?
I have done drone shots indoors, yes.
Like I've seen a shot of you at a big dinner table with a bunch of people. I think it was in Tri-Cities.
Yeah.
I'm probably in that picture.
You are probably in that
Is that a drone shot or is that an Insta360 shot?
That's it, Insta360. So
we had, let me tell the story because so many times Christine said, guys, look up. And she was holding this up in the air and said, beep, 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 or something like that. And we all looked up, and it just became so normal that we kind of missed it after. Guys, look up.
On point. Everyone would be like, yeah, and then immediately like stop smiling and go back to like eating or doing whatever. But that's also why I say part of my toolbox, because in that moment we're having a nice dinner, and I don't want to, even though it doesn't take that long to set up the drone. It can be loud depending on which drone you're flying, and it actually creates a lot of wind. Like if I were to fly the drone right over us right now, it will push every single piece of paper off of this table.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I just wanted a quick photo of us. And so
she did like this.
Yep.
Look up.
And it's exactly like that. And a photo was just taken.
Okay. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
You know, and this is your third one, right? Haven't you lost two of these?
This is the third one. Yeah. I got one out right
Christine's
after.
Never lost a drone. Even when she crashed it. Hers aren't on the bottom of a river.
I bought one right after we met, and then I was playing around with it on a flight and left the flight forgetting that it was on the seat. And this was Ryanair, and I said, oh, my Insta360 is in there. My camera's in there. Can I go get it? No, sorry, go to Lost and Found. And I did that, but I want to get it before you leave. No, go to Lost and Found, which was not even them. And then they said, well, can you tell me where the plane is going? No, we don't know. See,
it's a relatively recent thing where they will not let you go back on the plane. The moment you step out, you cannot go back in.
Really?
They're really strict about it now.
Oh.
So it became a thing that every time there's a T-Bex, I buy a new one that I have sent to the hotel. It happened in Marbella. And that one I lost doing whitewater rafting in the Zambezi River close to Victoria Falls. Had another one sent to T-Bex in Thailand at the hotel. So this is my third one.
Third time's a charm.
So I'll tell you a story, an airline story. I left, I don't know if it was this jacket, but a jacket like this. It couldn't be this one. That's too long ago. But I think it was the second South by Southwest Interactive. I flew on Southwest. I left my jacket on the plane. I didn't realize it right away. And it was like the next day or something. I'm like, oh, I left my jacket in the overhead. I called Southwest. I thought shot in the dark. And they sent me they said, oh, that plane went to Arkansas or Tennessee or something. And they transferred me there. And the person goes, oh, yeah, I have it right here behind the desk. I'll put it on the next flight back to Austin. So I swear to God. And went down to the airport and they said, yeah, here's your jacket.
Did you ask them if Palle's camera was inside the pocket of that jacket?
I lost my my iPad, and that I could only open with my fingerprints. It wasn't facial recognition; it was with fingerprint. In the airport in the plane in Kiev, Ukraine, and to get that back, they said, "Oh, the good news is we have it. It's right there. We can see where it is. But the bad news is you first have to go and fill out a lot of papers and do all this." And I said, "But I'm the only one who can open it with my fingerprint." Oh, sorry.
So you had to prove it was yours. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you didn't have a cut off thumb to open the iPad.
I got great content for my podcasts. So, yeah.
So what would be your advice, Christine, for somebody getting started with the drone? What's step one for them?
A lot of people think it's to buy a toy drone so that they don't actually crash the real thing. But I would say, why even do that? Because toy drones don't fly like real cinematic drones.
They're toys.
Yeah. Download the free app from DJI and you can pretend in a simulator to fly a drone. So you can just get a sense of what that feels like. And the second biggest thing that a lot of people are scared of is, oh, but the laws, like, I don't know if I can fly here or if I can fly there. And even before you get a drone, even right now, you can go to the DJI Fly Safe database online or on the app, and you can look to see what the rules are in the area. And people are like, oh my gosh, these drone maps look so complicated. And I'm like, it's literally like Google Maps, in the same way that you'll tap on the Pablo Center and it will tell you its address and hours. If you tap on a drone map, it will say, oh, well, this is the number one way to find prisons, by the way. There's a prison nearby and you can't fly here within this area, but you can fly over here, and it will tell you up to what height you can fly legally. And so it's very, very simple. And these are 2 steps, the simulator and looking at maps before you even go get a drone, just to become familiar with what you will be looking at. Because the biggest fears that people have are, I don't know how to maneuver it, and I don't know if I can fly there. So just answer it even before you get the drone.
But in some countries, you'll need an actual license, don't you?
It will vary by country.
Yeah, exactly.
But the way I talk about that is I bring it back to the travel challenges you and we had during the pandemic, where they're different all the time and they're changing everywhere. And drones are becoming more and more popular, and not everyone has figured it out with the rules. In some places, so easy. Bahamas, put in a request, 24 hours later, you got an email and you have your certificate to be able to go fly. Other places, so there are some countries, Egypt, Barbados, do not allow drones at all.
And they confiscate it and you don't get it back.
Yeah. Even places in Africa, they'll hold it at the airport. But most of that, I'm not saying 100% of that info is available online. And I always start with the equivalent of the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration. That's what it is for the U.S. What is that government website for that country? And just start there, take a look. But at the end of the day, you can always go to Reddit and just see what people on the ground are saying, because that's also a good resource.
I think it was like 7 years ago when I was in either TBEX Stockholm or TBEX Manila. I think it might have been Manila 6 years ago, that I met this, he was an American airline pilot that loved flying drones and doing travel content. But he said, and the rules might have changed since then, if he crashed his drone into a tree, it would show up on his pilot records as if he had crashed a plane full of people into a building.
Really?
Yeah. And he said, that's so crazy. But the rules might have changed. I have no clue. But
would you trust a pilot who crashed his drone into a tree?
Exactly.
That's a real question.
Exactly.
All right, I have a question. So it sounds like people are unnecessarily intimidated. Drones are a little easier than might think.
Tell me something you did today that's like flying a drone.
Nothing,
Yeah, literally nothing.
Talking to you.
But there's nothing in our everyday life that's like it. So it's difficult for people to want to jump on to something that they feel is very expensive. They don't realize it's only a couple $100, that there's nothing in your everyday life. That it's not like driving a car, but it takes a little bit, not a little bit of time to figure it out. Same thing with the 360 camera. It takes a little bit of time to figure it out.
It does. And I'm still not there yet. I've had it for a year and a half, and it's still, every time I edit, I could have done that better. I should have done that a different way. But flying a drone, I guess, is like learning to ride a bicycle. And once it's difficult and wobbly in the beginning, but then when you get used to it, you can kind of do it like second nature.
Exactly.
It becomes an extension of your arms, really.
Yeah.
And the nipples.
I literally have a third nipple called my drone.
So we talked about creators. What about DMOs or travel brands? What would your advice to them be about either using a drone themselves or working with a creator like you to come do some drone work for them?
Yeah, it's a great question, because I was actually just chatting with Christine of Visit Ann Arbor about this, because she was telling me about how she works with a great local photographer who does all of their drone work. But she's really interested in having someone on their team being able to fly a drone. And I was like, absolutely yes. And Christine, it should be you. And I was like, it's significantly easier than you think. And you need someone on the team who can just go right then, right there, and go get the shot. Like, you might realize, oh my gosh, like we could get some really easy social media content, or we need this photo for a blog post or something. Someone can just run out and grab it really quick by having someone on the team that flies a drone. It's a great tool to have in a DMO's toolbox, because again, there's no better tool to be able to showcase a destination in a beautiful way with a lot of storytelling within a single drone shot. You can say a lot about a place. You'll start thinking about this every time you start watching movies, the opening drone shots. The opening shot's always going to be with the drone. But I highly recommend DMOs have someone on their team that can fly, or to partner with content creators that have it in their toolbox.
I bet at some point it might already be there that you don't even need to travel. You like to travel, but you could actually sit wherever and then control a drone. They just need to have the drone in Kuala Lumpur and you would be in Florida with the controller.
Well, actually, there is some interesting research projects that I've been trying to find more things. I'm part of a few nonprofits in which I give my drone work to, but it allows researchers to tap into your drone wherever you're at in the world. If they're doing a research project on sea cucumbers, and if you happen to be over the ocean, you can allow them to take over control of your drone for a period of time. So that
like through a relay.
Yeah. And to be able to count or look at the sea cucumbers in that area. I think that's really fascinating. But what you're talking about is the near future.
Cool.
Yeah.
Then you don't get to travel.
Well, maybe I can find your 360 cameras with my drone.
Yes. It's still filming on the bottom of the Zambezi River.
Christine, I really enjoyed talking to you and telling us a little bit more about drones. I might go get one now, actually. I'm one of those people who would be intimidated by it.
And in Ogden, Utah, you got so much beautiful mountains and
right
landscapes.
by my house, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a horrible photographer. I don't know if a drone will make me any better.
It will. You'll have the best view in the house.
Yeah.
But when Rick gets that drone, you have an online course as well?
I do. I have courses in which, and that's one of those things. I don't want someone to hear about don't forget about the pitch and make sure the degrees are right with the yaw and the roll. Push the left button and then you're fine. And that's it. And so I really simplified it, but I made it in a way that someone can watch the video and fly their drone with me at the same time.
So they don't have to learn the terminology. They're just learning how to make the thing work.
Exactly. And get the beautiful photo, because that's all we want at the end of the day.
Where do people find you online?
I'm at Christine Lozada everywhere on every platform, or ChristineLozada.com.
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
A quick word before we end this episode. After attending Christine's session about how to use a drone, I decided to get one 1 week after we had this conversation. I'm now the proud owner of a small drone, the DJI Mini 3, and I attended Christine's webinar and feel I'm ready to fly a drone. The only thing is that I have not been in an area where it's allowed to fly a drone, so it's still waiting for me to take off. Just wanted to put it out there. I'm really looking forward to it, and Christine, thank you for inspiring me. When we did the fam trip in Washington State after T-Beck and Tri-Cities, you inspired me to get an Insta360 that I lost and got another one, that I lost and got another one. Now I have a drone, and who knows if I'm going to run that into a tree or into a cliff. Christine, you are an expensive friendship for me. And with that, see you in the next episode of Travel Matters in 2 weeks.
This episode of Travel Matters was hosted by T-Beck CEO Rick Calvert and Radio Vagabond Palle and produced by radioguru.co.uk.